Now, hear this.
Neil shouted across the sodden beach at a Second Empire patrol.
This one's a real kid of a shit. Let's say you encounter two First Order board mamas, and they say, to pass, you gotta solve our riddle. One's like, I always speak the truth, and the other's like, I always speak lies. Or at least, I think that's right. And the first one's like, but wait, if you always speak lies, does that imply we're supposed to presume your appended thought is a lie? Or were you lying about what you thought? In which case, you really think you don't always speak lies? And then, oh shit, how the fuck does this one go again?
Falling prey to his own distractionary transmission, Sad Neil was of no help on this particular machine hunt. But when the enemy spiders came over to investigate, the backup plan was launched.
Beep! Enthrall my enemies! Beep! Do it quickly!
Beep commanded. Along with the skeletons, all the hivers were there, shepherding the defector spider soldiers they'd already won. At her command, the spiders jerked to life and stomped off to thwack at their former comrades. "You all serve the Queen also!" Gustafsson barked at his entourage. "Go and soak in the subservience of the machines, make it your own, and feel the droning will connect to her." The hivers joined the skirmish ahead, turning it in their favour, and quickly a pile of fresh recruits was ready to be hauled back to camp. A great clattering mess of 5 or so sleeping spiders ploughed a trail up the rough hillside, tied together by the legs and dragged in pulsing jolts by Beep's iron warriors. "Push! Push!" Gustafsson was calling to his hivers as the hill got too steep. "To birth a new hive, you must push long and hard." "Push, push, long and hard, we want to give birth," the hivers chanted as they worked.
Alright, can anyone give me one reason why biologicals actually deserve to live?
Twitch asked.
Agnew
said.
I suppose you can't code a virus like that. Could at least keep quiet about it though.
Fortunately, the grinding affair was brought to an end by some sympathetic bystanders. Unfortunately, the method they had chosen to put the matter to bed was rather violent.
"Freezing pain! They are here! Beep!"
Beep shouted. From the slope in front and from behind rocks to either side, southern hivers jumped the push party with spears and cleavers raised high.
"Oh yeah, now I realise why I liked biologicals. Great for bashing!"
Twitch roared, indulging himself at once. He was surely happy to see just how many of the other ones there were, swarming from all directions like insects, to use an almost redundant simile.
"Fog, are you picking me up, Fleshface?"
Neil said.
"Sure, what's the skinny?"
Rick's voice said to him from afar.
"We got more sticks than a degenerate with a welding iron out here." "What about the battle bots? Can't they sort you out?" "They're less battling, more rattling. These things trying to terrorize a whole new other one, if you know what I mean." "Technically, you don't even have one to begin with, but fine, I'll put in a good word with the enforcers for you."
Thanks to that, as the fight was getting increasingly hairy, to use an ironic metaphor, the Shek rushed from the lip of the valley and joined the brawl.
"Serve! Beep! Serve!"
Beep was screeching, which may or may not have persuaded the Shek to kill a little bit harder. With the 1,000 Guardians tipping the scales, the Southern Hiver raid was out of luck. Or was this all merely a despicable hive-minded plot? For while the Shek were clearing things up down in the valley, the remaining guild members received a visit up in the camp. "The king will not stand it," a Southern Hiver bellowed out. He was flanked by 30-some like-minded companions. "King? Is this another hive?" Nuke pondered from the door to the shelter. No time for pondering, for these kingsmen wanted blood. "Izzy, get the other Izzy back up here!" Nuke shouted over his shoulder. Azumi grabbed the AI core, but froze as she realized she didn't know the frequency for any of the skeletons down there, and all the other cores were in the room with her. It was time to ask for directions.
"What do you want? You were due here a week ago,"
Enrico's voice buzzed.
"No time, just tell me if you have the quantum entanglement shid for a skeleton named Neil, or Twitch, or Agnew, I guess. But no, not Agnew, not Agnew."
Oh yes, I have Neil in my list. He owes me several 100,000 Wulongs in debts for this stupid board game he invented but kept losing at. No idea what that's worth in cats, but I fear he doesn't want to hear from me all the same.
Just tell him to save us.
He'd just as soon spend you. You know, that silicon man once told me that he was picking up signals from Earth. Strung me along for days. I wonder what debtor's prison was like for him in the end.
Enrico, we're all going to die, so just do the thing now, please.
All right. Don't be alarmed at my lack of concern. I just wasn't programmed for it, you see. Not trying to see you dead to steal your research. Don't believe what they all say, of what those alleged deleted messages said, or any of it.
With that, Azumi grabbed her jitter. It's like a rod with another bit sticking off it. It's a kind of weapon, honest. And went outside. It didn't look good. The hivers had the tech hunters on the ground, and the circling trio of Nuke, Rick and Els was barely holding on. Within a few seconds, the butt of a polearm clobbered her right in the forehead, and she blacked out. When she awoke, Isaiah was shaking her by the shoulder.
"Princess, quickly! The fresh battle spiders must be activated,"
he said. Around them, the Shek and the other ones were battling furiously, and Nuke and company were propped up against tent poles with bloodied rifts in their armor.
Beep, beep, beep,
Beep said into Azumi's ear with extreme volume. At this, she rolled over with a gurgle and dragged herself up. She stumbled over to the pile of captured spiders, then looked back to the fight. Rick, the usual interface, was out cold. Thinking fast, Azumi ducked under a swooping maul, scrambled into the shelter, and hurriedly spanned the dial on the back of a core.
Oh, who's that tickling me?
Io's voice said.
Io, I need you to activate a load of spiders to kill some hivers. Can you do it?
Izumi said.
Sure, just like when we used to clean up after the experiments, huh? You remember that?
What?
Oh wait, you weren't there, sorry. Biologicals are so funny, coming and going. Okay, let's see the little boys, and I'll give them the code injection real quick.
Something or other happened, and the Second Empire soldiers began beating the hivers back with flailing appendages.
Beep! Metal over meat! The dark knows defeat!
Beep beeped, happily prancing about the carnage. Her army of robots, Shek, and drones finally beat the other ones back, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. Guild members were strewn across the camp and the valley below. Hurried doctoring revealed that all were alive, and by evening most were back on their feet. None on more feet than the proud new spider troopers.
We know they work now,
Izumi said, inspecting the dents in one of the spider's legs.
but these supports are brittle. We need to keep them braced. Can't just send them out on their own.
We will not send them alone, Gustafsson said. That is like ignoring the darkness by closing your eyes. The Queen will go with her soldiers. Your mechanics with hands will also be required. They will fix and use their sticks. Have you asked them nicely? Nuke said, strolling over. They have no choice. They are machines. Machines are subjects of the beep. What don't you understand? Sure, I mean, why not? Nuke shrugged. But there is one thing I don't understand. Those other ones said they have a king. I thought a hiver couldn't be a king or something. All hivers are kings, Gustafsson quickly corrected him. Weird. Cool though. It is extremely cool. Yet that is not enough. We must conclude this war swiftly. I thought we were going to do that, but no one's moving with all these bandages, especially your stick click. What if the other ones show up again? They are on the way already. This will not change. And Izzy, what's the bot situation?
Need repairs. Need more of them too, given how close that was.
Right. So we're not going anywhere anytime soon. It's time to open up our box of tricks and make ourselves at home. Watson! That evening, the camp was industrialized. The guild got to work lifting iron and stone from the hillside. Elena built an electric windmill on the roof of the shelter, which powered compactors and smelters for processing the haul into sheets, poles, bricks, and bars. The hivers worked more enthusiastically than anyone, eager to make a castle for their queen. A castle was on the cards indeed, for these materials were used to ring their camp with walls. While most worked on this for the next couple of days, the spider bots were sent out on patrol with the acid-resistant skeletons, searching the beaches back south for more inductees. Soon the camp had a dozen iron spiders whirring about, their armor as patched as their software. The wall was coming along nicely, but not nicely enough. It was less than half complete when drums sounded from the north at dawn.
Trouble. A whole forest of it,
Sandor reported from atop the gatehouse.
and they've brought some friends too.
Alongside the horde of approaching hivers, there were 3 black guerrillos, bounding up the hill towards the guild's camp. Isaiah and the Shek rushed to the largest gap in the wall, and indeed the hivers hopped over the narrow foundations and immediately started fighting. The guerrillos were right behind them, smashing the 1,000 guardians to the ground with their bulk alone.
They really don't like us being here.
Don't you know this rejection of foreign exchange will stifle your economic growth and cultural breadth? Nuke argued, but the textbook lines didn't seem to work. Instead, he tried one that you won't find in most textbooks. Battlebots, attack! It's in Applied Anthropology for Anthrophobes Volume 4, somewhere, they say. In response to this, some battlebots attacked. A wave of iron spiders went out through the relatively useless gate further down the wall, then came around to smash the Hiver horde in the flank.
Other one, your time has come,
a droning chant claimed. That'd be the Hivers entering the brawl also.
The beeping grows!
One of the southern Hivers despaired, dropping his weapon to cover his eyes before being picked up and flung out of the camp by a pair of spider clamps. The rest of the battle went in much the same way. The guerrillos weren't feeling the infernal beep in their souls to quite the same degree, but their handlers had got them in some real guerrilla shit by now. Surrounded by angry meat tubes and their giant robot lunchboxes, they were slain.
Good show,
Isaiah said, satisfied with the field of fallen other ones before him.
The show is not over. Beep!
Beep said, pointing at one of the southern hivers crawling away towards the back.
Ah yes, I see. But you know, it's rude to completely kill all of them. It gives the impression that you weren't satisfied with the fight. Leaving some scraps alive is a sign of goodwill, Isaiah explained.
It is not scraps, it is the war prince. Beep!
Can relate. What's that mean, by the way?
The leader! Do not let him flee! Gustafsson said. Probably should have just said that to begin with, as this war prince was now on his feet-esque protrusions and was fleeing rapidly.
Can't escape me, I'm fast as fuck, boy!
Nuke boasted as he sprinted out in pursuit. He was right, and soon caught up. The war prince turned around and wielded a katana up high. Nuke went at him with a saber, and both were matched fairly equally. But after a few bouts, another blade appeared, turning the Hiver Prince's sword aside and cutting it from his arm. It was Elena.
I'm catching up to you, Prince Tashino, she said with a grin.
Yeah, well, you have a robot leg, and I'm drunk and high, not in that order.
Coping, are we?
Aren't we all? Wait, what's that meant to mean?
We can't all have an Izzy as good as mine.
Since when is it a competition? And my Izzy's way better.
She's hardly as special.
Leading scientists disagree. She ain't the only odd one out in her demographic, you know.
Oh, not like Izzy and I.
No, not like Izzy and I. This argument almost allowed the war prince to crawl away again, but luckily some of the others came over and completed the capture. Gustafsson received the prisoner and chained him up in the shelter, along with one other captured Southern Hiver Royal. He cleared everyone else out to be alone with them and shut the door.
Izzy, those pale scales think they're better than us,
Nuke complained to his Izzy.
Don't call them that, Nuke. And be quiet, I want to listen,
she said, leaning in to try and spy through gaps in the shelter door.
She's treating us like a rival couple. Are they even a couple? Shek don't really work like that, you know.
Which makes it even worse. I think she's jealous of you.
Well, I'm jealous of her half the time. She's an amazing mathematician, she doesn't care what anyone thinks, and she's really fucking tall.
I'm most of those things.
I'm not gonna leave you for her. You've got classics on the brain.
Nah, just moss.
Be more open! Feel it!
A shout came from inside. Well, time to ignore whatever the fuck they were talking about before, and get spying. This was way juicier. But you probably understand the deal with the Hivers by now, and their staunch resistance to the innuendo inoculations. You are flesh for the king to use. You will never feel strong, the prisoner spat. How can you be strong with only yourselves? Gustafsson shot back. It is no better than mere self-association. The creatures that feel are many, and can all be joined to the one true queen. Your queen is weak. She cannot control the beep. Perhaps that is why you stoop to cowering behind your king instead. The king is the source of the beep. They fool you. The beep is from below, and the feeling from above. It is through a queen that we know this. There is nothing else that important. Why be lost? Why feel alone? Your hive must join with the all-associables and let all know the feeling. When there is only one, we are all free. Your queen never told you what the Skeletmans did. They use you now as they did in the cages. This time, their experiment has worked. Fools! After saying this, the Southern Hive Prince would say nothing else. Gustafsson hummed long and loud in response, pacing about the room, then suddenly opening the door. We pay them no heed. We must trust in the Queen, he announced to all those now sprawled awkwardly around the doorway. Nice plan, man, Nuke nodded with a raised thumb. An even better plan was to get on and finish that wall before the next Southern Hiver army showed up, so that was the afternoon sorted. The next day, the bots were back on the prowl, marching down to one of those eerie coastal villages to poach spiders from their webs. No finesse was needed anymore, given the existing strength of the Legion, so it was just a huge chaotic rodeo with ropes flying all over the place. It was a warm day with only gentle rain, rain that stunk more than it stung, which is as good as it gets. Therefore, Nuke, Rick and Els went out to join the recruitment drive. The hard labour hauling deactivated spiders was the perfect time for some bonding gossip. So, new man, you know, like, what's going on? Nuke asked.
Anything in particular?
Rick replied. Just in general, you know.
Oh, in general. Well, the clock's still ticking on the sun blowing up. Few billion revs at least. So we gotta think of something better to do than play wacky BG until then. Or maybe get back into the whole space travel thing and get going.
Yeah, I kinda meant a little bit more like in the group.
So you're saying you're salty about not being the only one with a love interest?
I dunno.
Life ain't a horror manga, except if you know the right people. But for you, you gotta realize that those pale-ass kids are growing up now. Or is it down? Can't remember that Czech shit. Anyway, don't go thinking you gotta outdo them. You got something with that there grease girl. Don't let no one get you down for it, except me.
Okay, thanks, man. This is like...
Yeah, it is like...
Rick, can you be my dad too?
Els asked.
Eggman, you wanna call me daddy? You just go right ahead. Everyone else does.
Heartwarming, probably. Nuke realized the others being happy didn't have to make him any less happy, unless it was any of the Hivers, Els, or perhaps Wadston. Everyone else could live and love as they pleased, so long as their inoculations were up to date, which, as it happens, they weren't. Putting this pointless drama aside, the hard work on the beaches that day doubled the spider count again to some 24. Therefore, the next morning, the machines, their skeleton minders, and the founders of the Manxand Hive gathered by the camp gate. Loyal machines, pledge yourselves to fight for your queen, Gustafsson called out.
Beep.
The spiders all buzzed at once. Can probably take that as a yes.
Beep! I'm so happy you beeped! Beep!
Beep beeped.
Now we must begin the fighting. Don't worry if you die. Beep! I will live. Beep! The bad queen needs to not live. Don't forget. Beep!
This inspirational and thorough briefing left no doubt as to the nature of this next mission. The mechanical army of Manxand was going to end the Southern Hive once and for all, with Twitch, Neil and Agnew providing repairs, and the heroic leaders Beep and Gustafsson concocting masterful strategies and stirring speeches. How could they possibly fail? They had everything they needed to vanquish the threat to their hive and usher in a bright new future for all associables. However, the other ones had a secret weapon. To get to the Queen, the guild would first have to go through the King.